Okay, guys, how you doing? Um, I just wanted to make this video real quick to address some issues that a couple people have been having with the downgrade. So, I already commented back. Um, I decided I would just make a video because then I can address things more generally, and then everybody could reference this video if they're having any issues. Um, but it sounds like that goes black screen forever and all that stuff. It seems like this guy's kind of having a very similar problem. When he checks the task manager, it's still running, uh, which you would just go into your task manager and you would just kill the task then. You can hit end task or whatever. If it fails to do so, maybe just reset your computer so then it's not running at all. That's about all I could suggest for that if it doesn't leave the task manager or it won't, or if you can't end task or force it to close or anything. Um, but most likely the reason you're having this problem is the same reason this guy's having his problem. I'm going to assume, I'm not saying that this is the problem, but in the beginning of this video, I left this on this section of the screen here just so I could show this. These files here need to be removed. They have to go. Um, the Steam under slash API.dll. I'm not exactly sure if that'll cause a conflict, but it may. But if any of these files are in here, they could cause conflicts with the downgrade because the downgrade is uh, if it's calling functions that are available to it somewhere else, just basic programming stuff. But if it's calling functions that are available somewhere else, and there's another, um, how do I explain it? I guess another instance of that function, like say you wrote a program and there's two functions named the exact same thing throughout the scripts, but they're in different scripts themselves. It's not going to know what to do. It's not going to know which prototype of that function to call. So then you'll get a crash or some kind of error or compiler failure or whatever. So with this game, typically what you'll see is you'll get a black screen or the game will just completely shit the bed and crash. So chances are, like I've mentioned through the comment here, what I would recommend doing first is go into your GTA 4 directory, wherever you got GTA 4 installed. Okay, so go into there and find where the game is installed on your computer, which you had to do to install this downgrade anyway, so you should know where that's at. Go in there and check to make sure that these are the only files you have in here. These should be the only folders you have in here. Um, any of these folders and files, this should be the only things you have inside of here. So if you have any of these mentioned here, if you have the Steam under slash API.dll, if you have play GTA 4.exe, if you have any of this install script.vdf, metadata.dat, or you have the mtlx.dll, you're going to probably have conflicts if you have any of those in your folder because those are used for the newer version of the game. And like I said before, when you run the exe, it's going to, it's going to execute code and it's going to say, okay, well, I need to call this function. I need to call that function. I need to call this script and that script. And the scripts that, it isn't calling isn't an issue. So like say if one of these were in there and it was trying to call for something in here, um, or it wasn't calling this. Say that this was in your folder and it wasn't calling this at all. It wasn't like looking for this file at all. It would just ignore it. But if it was calling like say, something like this or whatever, and there was a function in there that was already declared or defined and somewhere else in the code, then it's gonna be like, oh well, gee, which prototype of this function do I use? And then it's just gonna shit the bed on you because it would be the equivalent of a compiler error when you're writing code in a compiler. It would be the same thing. It's just it's a conflict. So most likely you're having a conflict. Now your other option, if that doesn't work, inside of the folder that I provided, there's this folder here, which has Visual C 2005. Install both of these. Chances are nowadays, unless you're running a dinosaur PC, you don't have an x86, so you're not a 32-bit processor. So you don't necessarily need to install this, but the game is a 32-bit based because this was, before 64-bit became so widespread or became, commonplace. So what I would recommend doing is just install both of them. That's what I did on my computer, just to make sure there was no issues and that I had both versions of Visual C installed in case it needed one or the other for whatever reason. But install both of these, reset your computer, see if you have the same problem. Like I said, that's after you go through and you check to make sure that you've removed all of the mentioned files here. If you removed all those, check and make sure you installed Visual C, restart your computer, try again. If it's not working, then you may have like a driver error. You might check if you got AMD. You might check to see if like your Radeon drivers need updated, or something else, or maybe even do like a Windows diagnostic to see if there's anything wrong with Windows itself. Could be a problem somewhere else that's unrelated. With computers, it can be hard to tell without knowing more about the machine itself. But yeah, the same thing to this person. It sounds like he's having a very similar problem. So it's probably, I told him it's probably the exact same thing I told this guy. It's probably going to be that. You probably forgot to remove something that shouldn't be there. You just got to make sure that everything that isn't supposed to be there isn't there. Any folders that are mentioned in this video that shouldn't be there should be removed. But it's mostly going to be these files you're going to have to worry about. There shouldn't be anything else you have to worry about there. So I just wanted to address that real quick, because that's going to probably be the problem that most people are going to have with crashing and all that. There's going to be conflicts because, it may be calling a script that, has code that it can't execute, or it has a wrong prototype, or something is conflicting in the code. So make sure that those are removed. Make sure you installed Visual C 2005. Make sure that you have Visual C installed on your computer, like the latest version as well. Maybe check DirectX. Make sure your DirectX drivers are up to date. Make sure you have, whatever DirectX, previous versions of DirectX you may need for anything else. Certain older games will already install stuff like that. So if you need to, like, say, for instance, like, this is dinosaur age shit, but like, say you need a DirectX like 9 from like the late 1990s, for whatever reason. If you installed a game from then and it works fine, then it probably already installed DirectX 9 anyway. And if you're on a newer version, it should have all the older code implemented and available for those instances where you use older software, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. Just make sure DirectX is up to date. So maybe check that too. That could be another possible potential issue if none of this other stuff that I mentioned works. Also, let's see, there was another thing I was looking at down here for the save file issue. I've already gone through and started reading these and start commenting back, but I figured I would just make a video because it's a lot easier and it's, a lot less typing. So, so for the 100% save file, if you made it on any other version of the game other than this downgraded version, then it's not going to work unless you have a save converter, which there may be one out there. We could Google that real quick. Let's take a look. Okay, well, it looks like there's probably gonna be something like that. I know they see, Vice City Save Converter. I'm not sure if they got something like that that actually works for GTA 4 or not. I've never actually really heard of one for GTA 4, but they might have made one. Somebody probably made one. So maybe dig around, read through some forum posts, like in here or something, like go through like this stuff, Steam community, read through the forum posts, see if there's anything like that that may be helpful in your situation. Other than that, the only thing that I could, like I mentioned in the comment here, the only thing I could recommend for you at this point is if you can't find a save converter, unfortunately, you're gonna have to replay the game and get 100% completion again. I know it sucks, but that's kind of a quirk of downgrading because it's an older version of the game. This is like the version that came out in like 2008. So when you downgrade, you're basically going back to the version that came out in 2008 with some minor tweaks. The only minor tweaks is there's a modification to the code that removes the need for that games for Windows Live bullshit that you needed back in the day to use the game. Games for Windows Live isn't a thing anymore. So, it was removed rightfully anyway. But yeah, it hasn't been a thing for quite some time now. They canned games for Windows Live, I think in like 2014 was like when they finally completely shut down the servers for it. So it's been quite some time. It might even have been a little bit earlier than that. I believe it was 2014 when they finally shut the servers down for it. So you couldn't log in or anything. But this patch for removing games for Windows Live has actually been around as long as the game's been out. Crackers cracked the game before it even came out, and they've had patches for this shit. So this patch isn't anything new. It's been around for a while, but the only thing that I did was I streamlined the process of downgrading the game and installing this patch to where it's basically a simple copy and paste job. That's pretty much all I did. I found all the necessary files, put them all together, and made it as simple as possible. That's all I did. So I can't really credit myself for other people's work, and I'm not even going to attempt to. All I'm doing is showing you an easy way to do it yourself, so then you don't have to go and hunt down all these files and, fight with figuring out what directories stuff goes in. All you do is just copy the folders and paste them in, and that's pretty much it. Remove the files that I said to remove up here, Steam API and all that shit. Just do that and you'll be fine. So as for not working with the PS4 controller again, because this is a game from 2008 and you've downgraded the game to basically its original state before any updates, before Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and Damned and all that shit even was a thing. That's where this takes this game. It takes it to before that. So the complete edition, unfortunately, is no longer the complete edition when you do this. So I'm going to mention that here too. You won't have Lost and Damned. You won't have Ballad of Gay Tony. But who cares about them anyway? They're side stories compared to GTA 4. GTA 4 is where it's at. If you want those other ones, I recommend downgrading to like 1.0.7.0. I don't have a guide for that. It's probably going to be a little more complicated than my guide because I don't know that anybody streamlined that and made it as simple as I made this. So you might have to do some file downloading and copy and pasting to this folder, that folder, but you might also try that if you're interested in those two games. As for not working with the PS4 controller, like I said, because of how old this game is, and it's basically returned to its original state from back then, it's probably not going to work with a PS4 controller. I know I used to get it to work with PS3 controllers back in the day, but there was a special software you needed. You might not need it anymore. I don't know, but you used to need a software that you would install on your computer so the computer could recognize the PS3 controller as a input device. You may not need that anymore, but unfortunately, you're probably going to be stuck to using like wired controllers. Anything wireless or Bluetooth is probably not going to work with it. Like I said, it's an old game. It's not going to know what to do with a Bluetooth controller. Um, unless you make some kind of modification or script or something that does that for you. I'm not the guy to go to. I don't know how to do that. So, unfortunately, I can't help you with that. I don't even have a PS4 controller or PS4 at all. So, I can't even test and see if there's a way to get it to work, unfortunately. So, as much as I'd like to help you, I can't help you. And as for the guy here who says it's running like crap, you got some decent specifications. Um, RAM clock speed, I don't know. I feel like that's a little low, but I might be, I might not be totally right on that because I don't run an Intel system and my system's running a Ryzen 2700X. So my RAM's clocked at 3200 megahertz. So that may be a potential issue why it's running like crap. Your RAM speed may be too low. You might be getting like frame time consistency issues or something. Check, do you got a bunch of stuff running in the background? Do you got applications that when your computer starts is automatically running in the background, like Twitter or like, Discord or like, do you got a bunch of tabs open in Google Chrome? All that stuff gives you a performance hit. I mean, your computer sounds like it's powerful enough to where you shouldn't have that kind of issue, but it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. Now, the RX 570, if I'm not sure if I don't know much about the RX 570. I got an RX 580, the 8 gig model. It's a Sapphire Nitro edition. And mine's overclocked to 1500 megahertz. But that shouldn't be an issue because, I mean, this could run it in an underclocked state to where if I underclocked it to 200 megahertz, it'd probably run this just fine because how old the game is. I'm not saying it would. It might crash my computer because I might be underclocking it too far at that. But you get the idea. It should work just fine, even on potato hardware for the most part. Frame rate wise, on a potato, I wouldn't expect much because this game is kind of still demanding, even though it's old. But it could run on a potato because it's meant to work with 2 gigs of RAM. 2 gigs of VRAM, I should say, is like the max that it's supposed to, knows how to handle. That's what this script here is for. This here basically takes off the restrictions for the VRAM and all that stuff. So then you could change your texture quality and all that out. So what I would recommend doing is maybe try turning down the settings. See if that helps. Like I said, check your background tasks, see what all is running in the background, see if you got stuff you don't need running in the background. Check drivers, make sure your drivers are up to date and working properly. The simple troubleshooting stuff is about all I could tell you may be a problem. For the game itself, if it runs like crap, it could be hardware. You could have, older faulty hardware. I'm not sure. The i7 2600, I'm not really sure about because I haven't used Intel in years. So I can't really tell you about, I don't know how new that is. I don't know what gen it is. I don't know the quality of them. An i7's a good processor. I know that. So it should be fine. It should be up to the task. The RX 570 definitely is going to be up to the task. I know that that's more than new enough to handle this. Even some old potato cards worked pretty well with this game back in the day. So, they weren't excellent, but they worked, all right enough for it to be playable without, going to such a ridiculously low frame rate that you can't play the game without it being like a slideshow. So, as for that, I don't know, man. Unfortunately, you're going to have to try, like I said, check your drivers. check if you need any kind of other updates on your computer for like other drivers. Maybe you might, I don't know if it's a desktop, which I'm assuming it's a desktop. It's what it looks like from the specs. Um, I would say maybe make sure that you got any drivers for your motherboard that you need installed. Um, Check to see if your motherboard needs a BIOS update. If you're not sure of how to do that, figure out what motherboard you have. Look online for a guide to updating the BIOS. Maybe try updating the BIOS. If you're not comfortable doing it yourself, have somebody who is comfortable and knows what they're doing do it. Because if you flash a BIOS update and it goes wrong, you could brick your motherboard. So maybe look into that stuff, because I actually had some issues. Was it last year with this computer? Because this computer's a couple years old now. Where I didn't have the newest BIOS update, and it was actually causing my computer to run kind of shitty. It was running really slow at times, and for like no reason when it ran fine before. But make sure your BIOS is up to date as well. That could potentially be an issue. Other than that, I can't really say that there's any. I haven't come across anybody else who had any problems on here. So, yeah, those should be the fixes that'll fix the issue. If you still have any problems, you're open to post comments on here. I'll try and help you out. You know, it's spotty whether or not I'm going to be on here that often, because, I had some stuff going on. I'm, not really focused as much on YouTube or the internet as much. I still get on here to watch videos while I'm at work and shit, but on my phone, I can't even check comments unless I go onto my own video and like look at it, and I don't even know if I could reply to them on my phone. I've never tried. I'm sure I could, but neither here nor there. I'm not gonna bother doing that. I'd rather do it on my computer where I could put it on the bigger screen and actually read the stuff better. Other than that, I think I've pretty much covered all the grounds for potential issues and what you should possibly do to try and fix these issues. I only see two people who have issues, really. Another one with a game save, which is kind of I'm not saying it's a non-issue. It is an issue. It's just it's more or less something I forgot to mention during the video for the downgrade. Yeah, your old saves are just not going to work. Unless you could find some kind of save converter, which, looking through Google here, it's not like I can see anything. But what you could do, though, is right here, like GTA 1.0.4 save game. Somebody might actually be able to give you a game save file with 100% completion, and you can just, get whatever clothes or whatever for your character or whatever that you want, And just do it that way. Just download somebody else's save file and just mess around with that and get it where you want it. So you could do that too. I don't personally have a 100% save file. I actually started the game over and deleted all my old saves just because I wanted to play the game again. So, yeah, other than that, I can't really... I can't think of anything else I need to mention that I forgot to mention before. I'm pretty sure I covered everything. But yeah, make sure that you delete the files that I mentioned deleting before you do the downgrade. I recommend doing it before you do the downgrade, but if not, just go through your folder, okay, that don't belong, just delete it. That don't belong, delete it. Just make sure that the files that I told you to delete, steam.apl and play, blah 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 and all that, just delete that stuff. Make sure that's gone. Make sure you've installed the Visual C. Make sure that your DirectX is up to date. Make sure your drivers are up to date, which matters probably less because this game worked on drivers in 2008, so I mean any drivers that you got on your computer should be fine. But with Windows 10 you might come across errors because not having updated drivers and the newest version of Windows 10 with the newest update might cause some problems or lag or slowdown or anything like that. So this guy might just have some issues with needing to update stuff on his computer. That's my guess. Um, Other than that, I can't really direct you any further in that on that aspect. But your RAM speed does seem a little low, in my opinion. But I haven't worked with anything under 2666 in years, quite a few years actually. So I can't tell you if that's a problem. And being this game's so old, RAM speeds were probably lower than this back then. I can't remember. Back when this version of the game was out and being played on PCs back in 2008. So I mean, I would assume that should be fine to run this game. So you, like I said, you might look into like drivers and other issues, drivers, installing Visual C, DirectX, make sure you got DirectX updated and all that stuff, anything like that, make sure that all that stuff's good. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else I need to cover. I wanted to make this really quickly just to express that if you have any issues, you feel free, like I said, to comment. I'll try and comment back. If not, I'll try and come and make a quick video covering the topic and explaining things. If I can, or if it's out of my realm of knowledge, I'll probably just shoot you a comment and say, sorry, I can't help you, or, try and point you in the direction of somebody or something that maybe can, like, a forum or something, forum post or something, if I have some time to do that. Whether or not I'll have time to do anything is kind of spotty. I had plans before all the problems came about to make a video about Cyberpunk and all the different endings, and I was going to do a glitch video on that, different glitches that I found just through playing through the game. Some of which are known and others that I haven't seen anybody else come across or mention or bring up on any videos anywhere. So I planned on doing that, but that's going to take me a really long time to produce. And with how much my time has gotten limited over the last few months to do stuff like that, it might be a while. And other than that, I had a couple ideas for, like, car repair stuff. But, again, and until the time comes where I have time to do that stuff, I'm not going to be able to do anything with it. Right now, the car doesn't need any repairs, but I had a couple of things I did want to do that, would be, I think would be helpful to some people. But as the car needs repaired, I will be recording that and making videos on that too. So, but right now it doesn't need anything, so kind of no point in trying to do that. You don't fix stuff that ain't broken, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's it for me. I'll try and get some more videos out over the period of the next couple months. I can't guarantee when anything's going to come about at this point. But hopefully this gave you some direction on where to look to try and solve your problems. But other than that, there's nothing else really that I could cover on this front, and hopefully this helped you out somewhat. If not, like I said, check forums, maybe ask around other fans and see if maybe somebody else, someone else on one of the forums or like Steam or something could help you. Steam, in my experience, hasn't been the best place to get help, so maybe check like forum sites, like like one of the GTA forum sites or something. Just maybe Google GTA forums or something, and maybe make an account on one of them sites and ask for some help. Somebody might be able to help you there. But I'm pretty sure I covered everything that should be causing any issues, and I should have covered everything that should fix your issues as far as I could think of at the moment. So, like I said, just comment back if you still having issues. I'll try and, do what I could do when I can. Not sure how soon I'll be getting back to people. But, yeah, hopefully you don't have no more problems is what I'm getting to. I hope you don't have any more issues with the game after this, and to everybody who watched. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time I make a video. Goodbye.